Tedward here for Winding Road Magazine. Today we're going to be taking out my 2010 E92 M3. We're up here in the Granite State working on David's Cayman, which you saw in the M5 point of view video. Right now it's getting a handmade roll cage. So let's focus on the M3 for now. I apologize for the wind. It's space gray. It's pretty much completely stock other than the fact that it has been tuned by Brent Tuning, which you saw in our open house video. It's got the comfort access, so I don't need to put the key in the hole, so I can just go ahead and start it up. Turn this off. Don't need extra beeps. I love my BMW Butler. Allows me to reach my seatbelt without straining myself, because obviously that would be far too hard. I'll get some exterior shots of the car once we're down off the mountain. It's a little windy up there right now, so I don't want to bombard you guys with wind noise. This car is equipped with DCT and the EDC, so that means it's got 3 suspension settings. When these lights are all off, it's in the comfort mode. Then one mode up is slightly more aggressive than comfort mode. When you go all the way up, I believe it just goes static to the hardest mode, because the other 2 modes are adaptive. So it'll add damping to each side depending on what you're doing. Like I said, the car was tuned by Brent Tuning, so that means there was a dyno tune in order to give us a little more power. I gained about almost 30 horsepower and about 20 pound-feet of torque, which, believe it or not, makes a huge difference in this car. Very low on torque to begin with out of the factory. And the DCT tune is a Euro tune that's 1 step below the GTS tune. The reasoning for that is because if you do the GTS tune, the GTS car had additional coolers for the transmission, and I don't really feel like frying this thing. It's my daily driver. The DCT tune did a lot of good for this car, because the original DCT tune from the factory, it's really clunky around town. It feels like it's always slipping. It feels just, I don't know, it's cumbersome. It's great when you're driving fast, but it was always just a little cumbersome. Now with the Euro tune, it feels a lot more natural and predictable. People are always concerned about rod bearings on these cars. I mean, just like in Porsche with IMS bearings, it's definitely a possibility that you can spin them. But for the most part, the cases of that are pretty low, and I send my oil out every 10,000 miles to Blackstone. So if I do 5,000 mile intervals, every other oil change, I'll send it out to Blackstone, just to let me know if there's any particulate matter that may indicate that something's escaping into the engine and gonna cause me trouble down the road. The other thing that happens to these cars is the throttle actuators go. I don't believe that's a problem for the 2010s. I think that's more an 08, 09 issue, but I could be wrong about that. We're not quite up to temp yet, so take it a little easy. I also have the MDM mode upgraded as well, so it allows for a little more slip angle. Before, MDM versus traction on really wasn't much different. So I usually, my M mode, I would just turn traction off. Now, I keep MDM mode on because it's a little more fun. Plus, then I know I won't spin the car off a cliff. We're past the first dot on the oil temp, so I think we're good to go. No blinker because BMW. The ABS has also been changed with the tune, so now I can go way deeper into the brakes before ABS cuts in. I'll try to show you that when we get to a smoother road. But the car revs to 8,600 RPM now. The top dyno run it made was 357 horsepower to the wheels on a really heartbreaking Mustang dyno. So I was pretty impressed because its baseline was 328. The servotronic steering was also changed. I don't notice that quite as much as everything else that was changed on the car with the tune. I really only notice it at low speeds because it frees up the steering, so it's a lot easier to drive. Downshifts are my favorite part of the car, which definitely makes me want to get a better, louder exhaust on the car. If you double tap, you're able to do If you double tap, you're able to get 2 gears in one shift. At least that's what it appears to be doing. Someone can correct me if that's totally wrong and it's just doing 2 without showing me, but it sounds like 1 downshift. This car on the highway is pretty interesting because it's a 1-to-1 gear ratio in 7th gear. So when you are cruising at like 60, 70 miles an hour, you're just kissing like 3,000 RPM. So at speed, if you were really, sitting at 85, 90, you're gonna be well over 3,000 RPM. That's fine, but it just takes away from the GT-ness of this car, especially because it only has a 16 and change gallon fuel tank, and over 80 miles an hour, you're probably only getting about 19 to 19 and a half miles per gallon. So it does get a little tricky to spend a long time on the highway in this car. I'm going to be stopping for fuel quite a bit. Some of you mentioned that this would get very annoying to you. It's kind of like I have a big nose, so I don't see my nose. I stop seeing this, It's like you just adapt. I move this between a few cars, so it's easier not to have it hardwired, but also I don't like tearing out interior bits, so if it's going to be hardwired, I need someone else to do it, and I don't want to see it happen. The throttle map with the tune was also changed, so it flattened out the beginning of the throttle pedal initiation. That's really important because this car doesn't creep, so when you do like ease into the throttle, when you get clutch engagement, it's nice to be able to kind of like hit it hard rather than let it slowly slip, because I just feel like I'm destroying these clutches when I do that. Before the car was tuned, I would actually only use the power mode, which is this guy, when I was driving in bumper-to-bumper traffic or in the city, because that would give me a more aggressive first, inch of pedal travel and allow the clutches to engage pretty quickly. Now with this tune from Brent Tuning, it's a lot more flat and natural, so I just never touch that button. It doesn't do anything in the M3 anyway, other than adjust the throttle map, whereas in the M5s, it'll give you 100 horsepower. This guy. Go for it. Sweet. All right, well, let's get on this a little bit. A little bit of wheel spin in second. Which on Michelin Pilot Super Sports, it didn't really give me a whole lot of wheel spin in second before. Now I get just a hint, which is nice, and it lets me know that it's hitting the gear hard and that there's actually some torque behind it, which with these S65 engines, that's really the biggest concern with people when they go to buy these, is there's just very little torque. But you got to treat it like a Honda. I mean, this car is kind of like an 8 Gen Civic Si with rear wheel drive and double the engine. You just rev the hell out of it, and it gives you everything you want. And it makes really cool noises, because it is very fun to have this car up at Redline. And to be honest, these shift lights are fantastic, because otherwise I'd hit the limiter. That's a mode that you can engage with your M button. So you can go into the settings and engage those shift lights. Let's go ahead and turn around up here. Always greeted with a dirt road in New Hampshire. Seems to be a theme. Let's go ahead and turn traction off. All right, let's feel this ABS. So you can tell that you get a little more lockup with this tune. I'm very surprised that my microphone didn't just fly off, so that was cool. But it definitely gives you a lot more braking ability before ABS cuts in and tells you that you're done. So let me show you what this car does at about 70 miles an hour in 7th gear. Just about 2,600 RPM, so we'll make sure we're safe by these cyclists. It is a steep hill. I don't blame them. Plus, I'm out here driving a car. They're out here cycling. So, who am I to judge them? My favorite part about this car, I think, is the steering. It just tells you everything that's going on with the car. You never wonder if the front end has grip. It just tells you everything, where the M5, my recirculating ball system on the M5, does not give you that at all. Please don't go right. Of course you go right. At the bottom of the pedal, there's a kickdown switch. Now, what the kickdown switch does in drive mode is it's gonna tell it to kick down. It's gonna go down a gear. When you're in manual mode, so let's say I go to 5th gear, I'm cruising along and I wanna get to the lowest possible gear that I can get to. I'm gonna push down all the way on the accelerator to the kickdown switch, and I'm gonna pull this downshift paddle once. And that's going to bring me down to the lowest possible gear for the conditions. So if I turn off M mode and knock this over to drive, try that again, knock this over to drive, it's just going to be an automatic transmission, basically. I mean, it's going to select gears for me. It's going to upshift where it thinks it's appropriate. Sometimes that's really awkward. Sometimes it's really good. It really just depends on the conditions. I tend to always boost this up to at least 3 or 4 on that drive mode. If you have it way at the beginning on like setting 1, it's kind of like a winter driving mode, so it'll try to start in second gear pretty much every time. But otherwise, if I get in a little bit, it'll give me a downshift. Here in New Hampshire, no helmet laws on motorcycles, so people certainly live free and die. So this is automatic mode. Go ahead and make a pass in a legal passing zone as you would. Go ahead and put it back in M mode. Is really compliant and it handles bumps very well. I think that's my favorite part about the suspension, is that you don't have to worry about skidding across the road because there's a turn with a bump in it. This car just like holds everything. Very inspiring. Let's let these folks go. We'll be good doobies. And they've got a cool dog. We love dogs. Australian Shepherd? I'm not sure. Inside, this is kind of a bizarre color for an M3. I wasn't sure about this car when I bought it. I saw pictures of it. It looked very blue on camera. It's called Silver, and to be honest, once I saw it in person, I fell in love with it. It makes the car feel really big. Go ahead and turn off this traction control again, because we have a little bit of a rally stage going up the hill. When the car does kick out, it kicks out really subtly and slowly, and it's kind of a funny thing because there's not a lot of torque behind it. You can sit in the throttle, and unless there's something slippery on the road, like look, I mean, 4th gear, I can floor it on a dirt road, and I'm not gonna go anywhere. Nothing's gonna happen. But if, let's see, we'll do it on a spot where there's not a whole bunch of gravel. But 2nd gear, now it starts to shimmy a little bit. So you got to get the revs way up for this car to lose traction. But that's kind of the beauty of it. Unlike the newer F80s, F82s, those have torque everywhere, and they just make it a little less convincing that you're not going to go sideways coming out of a corner. So, whereas in this car, just toss it in, and it's off. Because the front tires are smaller than the rears, you get a hint of understeer coming into something like that. Then you just feed it a little bit of throttle and it comes right out. this is probably a good place to stop and show you the outside of the car. I'm going to show you a silly feature that I really like on this car after the tune, and that is the Euro spec hazard lights. They do a double blink, and I know that's really dumb, but I love the double blink. So this is not a competition package, so it has these 19-inch wheels. Loads of bugs from the drive up. And like I said, it's my daily driver, so my apologies for the filth of this car, but obviously we're sliding it around in the dirt, so that's gonna happen. To save weight and probably other engineering decisions, these front quarters are plastic composite, which I guess makes it easier if I do crack up the car. Has the carbon fiber roof, and it's pre-facelift, so it has the old style taillights, which honestly I kind of like, but that's a personal opinion. You'll notice when it's comfort access, because you've got these little grooves here, and I can put up the mirrors with that and bring them back down. Got the key in my pocket, which is why it allowed me to do that. And there's my butler. So that's my 2010 E92 M3. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Winding Road Magazine and check out my personal channel, Tedward Drives. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.